Welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast that has the science and the screaming to determine what the best movie is of any given year. This is part 2 of the 1996 season finale, and we are continuing to take our 16 movies from the season down to the singular best movie of 96. And of course, we will be giving some awards out along the way. With me are Ryan.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back, Ryan.
You know, I'm not your best friend for 5 weeks, and I still came back, and I think that's really cool of me.
It shows a lot of grit and character, I would say.
Chutzpah?
I would never hurt my throat by trying to say chutzpah. And the man with more chutzpah for the putzpah, it's Greg.
Yeah, it was very easy for me to show up tonight, Mike, as I remain your best friend.
Yes. And thank you for the muffins.
You know what? No problem. It's
More
my
muffin for the
honor
stuffing.
to bring them to you.
I've never seen a dragon fruit muffin, and I can't wait till this episode's over so I can try it.
Is that the fruit that smells like holy hell?
I think that's durian.
I always mix those two up. You would think dragon fruit, it's made of dragon. It tastes like shit.
Yeah.
It's because it's always dragon on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
But durian smells and tastes like rotting human flesh, I think.
Oh, okay.
But some people
not even like
it.
good human flesh.
No, rotted. Yeah, not that sweet, good human flesh you'd want to chew down on. But like a pope died because he ate too much of it. Like it's the people who love it get addicted to it. It's crazy.
Not the flesh like a good like shish kebab that has like a bell pepper, an onion, human flesh.
Oh, I mean, who wouldn't on the 4th of July?
I would
like
love
the
to
shish.
hear about how some other popes have died. Don't you think that's like would be an interesting topic of conversation?
Yeah.
Weird
like
ways popes have died.
A vignette of short films showing pope deaths.
Yeah, one guy ate too much fruit, apparently.
One
But
guy
the
not
rest is
enough.
just like gallbladder burst, cancer. Like
Too much sinning, not enough sinning.
Killed by new pope.
oh, Jude Law would definitely. No, wait,
People
he was
don't
young
know
pope.
this, but if you kill the old pope, you become the pope.
Yeah, it's kind of a Dragon High Lord type scenario.
That's why Conclave was so action-packed.
That movie ruled until it didn't. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the films of 1996. If you want to know what we did so far, go back. Again, I already said this is part 2. You nut. Go back and listen to part 1. What are you doing? We're just gonna dive right in. Let's stop hemming and or hawing. But by dive right in, I mean, of course, giving an award away to the best comedic performance of the year.
Well, can I just say, first nominee, host of 1996 season, Mike Gravano.
Uh-oh.
Wow, somebody's gunning for points.
How many points is that worth?
18.
Oh, okay.
But
It's a
these,
good amount of points.
am I Drew Carey in the American reboot of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because these points don't matter. Ryan, tell us about somebody who does matter, and that's Vince Vaughn from Swingers.
Oh, man. As you guys think, I don't. But, my Demogoblin, my Demagogue, my guy who is, basically trying to get himself to be me, that's Trent. He's tall, he's thin.
Mm-hmm.
He's like me in both of those ways for sure. But then also likes to embarrass his friends and call that comedy. And I, for one, am with it.
You are with it. Wait, your whole argument for Vince Vaughn is because he's like you?
Well, you guys are the ones that said that in Recast the Podcast. That's not me.
Vince Vaughn in this movie is one of those characters where Hollywood has taught me that the more a character talks about sex, the less likely they are to actually have had sex. And he is proven at the end of this movie to be the least proficient with ladies of anybody of all time.
In the first episode of this finale, we talked about how 1996 was a lot about don't have money, grab your friends and a camera and go. And we didn't even mention Swingers,
Right.
Which is the ultimate of that of this year. But without Trent in this movie, I'm not sure we have a movie.
Oh, yeah, we just have Sad Sack Voicemail Magoo? No, thank you. That does not
He's a
movie
nut.
make.
I love the idea where like we all want to be in a movie, but no one's putting us in a movie. Okay, fine. We'll make our own movie for us to be in.
Yeah, he couldn't even Kevin Smith it and just cast other people who can barely act. Next up is Steve Dewey, our former guest's favorite guy, Zahn, from That Thing You Do. He plays Lenny. Most of I know most commonly what I quote from that thing you do is I quit, Mr. White. But if it's not that, every other line is Lenny. It's no, I'm not here with these boys. I'm here for the pig contest. Favorite band is Captain Geach of the Shrink Shank Shooters.
I feel like Steve Zahn this entire movie is just I quip. Mr. White, I quip.
God damn it. There's no points.
Operator.
He is gold, and I would argue, without Steve Zahn, this isn't a movie. Let's keep saying that about comedic performances.
I wonder if we can say this about our future nominees or our past nominees for this award. If you just like rise above the script and make it seem like you're writing your own lines and they're good, as opposed to the rest of the lines in the movie, you might get nominated for this award.
But don't be annoying about it, future comedians.
Right. Don't talk about it on Jay Leno.
Don't be Joey Tribbiani, who say you basically write all your own lines, because that's going to piss the writers off.
And they will send you down an elevator shaft.
We know a lot about that show.
We do. We really do.
Greg, tell us about Nathan Lane from the Birdcage.
Oh my gosh. Nathan Lane. This has probably never been said, but I don't know if this movie works without the performance of Nathan. Nathan Lane. It's interesting because his performance is really the soul of the movie. Albert is just, as the matriarch of the family, she is just like the message. She's like the love that we're all supposed to have. She has for everybody. But at the same time, Nathan Lane's performance is so funny, and something I didn't get to say on the show, but now I get to say now because I remember is I don't know if he gets enough credit when Starina and her helper are like blocking their performance, and it's like a young hot guy, and so he's not really into it. Nathan Lane's like going through the blocking of his performance and then being like fairy dust is an underrated line in this movie, and like the way he delivers it, like shaking the mic as if he's actually like administering this fairy dust. So funny, so powerful. Nathan Lane makes Birdcage.
Such a big performance and so tailored to Nathan Lane, but also pulling off all the Elaine Mayisms of like, that dancer you're talking about, Greg. He chews gum to help him think, and then he can't think of something, and he's just chew more gum. All those punchlines, he just nails as well.
Let's pivot from the Birdcage right to the Birdcage. Ryan, talk about Hank Azaria.
Oh wow. One-time loser on this finale. Did not win Best Supporting Actor, but this might be where he belongs. Just because we had talked about last week how you guys go off and do whatever storytelling and, I don't know, like drama you need. I'll be over here with shoes on, and I can't stand in shoes. And so I'm just constantly slipping. Every single type of comedy that's ever existed, Hank Azaria tackles in this movie and is wonderful.
It's a crash course of comedy through the ages. Next up is Cuba Gooding Jr. as Rod Tillwell and Jerry Maguire. It's crazy. A lot of the former supporting actors coming back.
They're funny guys.
As comedic, they're also funny guys. Never the lead, always the bridesmaid are comedic actors. Tidwell, he is funny. He is sad while he's funny. It is his giant ego. And yeah, as a kid, I definitely get that Rod Tillwell knows he's playing a character. Mm-hmm. And he does. He knows what to turn on, what to turn off. Sometimes he does not know how to turn it off, which none of us can relate to.
If in the NFL, if you're normal and you play wide receiver, the coaches will pull you aside and be like, you have to start being more wild than this. You're not allowed to be the wide receiver and be quiet.
What a weird prerequisite.
Go be strong safety if you're going to act like this.
Exactly, yeah. You're middle linebacker behavior.
I think his funniest moment is not one of the Rod Tidwell punchlines, but after Jerry / Tom Cruise has his 4-year consideration moment in the bathroom, Rod Tidwell just starts laughing at what a moron he is.
Yeah. And finally, Greg, Frances McDormand in Fargo.
Oh, wow. Yeah. She's so smart in this, and the way you have to be Midwest smart when everybody around you is dumb is you have to go out of your way to be like, I'm not, well, let's see. Let's take it from your perspective and then work backwards from that. And then let's see what the implications are. And the only way I think you can be Midwest funny is to kind of like be a very understated, almost like assassin. And she really pulls that off here, like being kind of like devastating, and nobody even realizes it until like the conversation has already moved on a little bit.
Right, because she sounds so polite, and they are so very dumb.
Yes,
I've never liked the argument of like Coen Brothers are making fun of these people, and I can see the argument though, but Frances McDormand's character is what saves it. Like she is these people, and also so sweet to these people, and so funny in being patient. Her patience is, and her looks is what's funny.
Yeah,
not
because
quite
usually
sure
what we're used
about your
to,
police work there, Lou.
Yeah,
I mean that's the line of the year.
Is like the Sherlock Holmesian, like I'm so good at this that I can't understand how to be around people, and she kind of has the same ability to like figure out exactly what happened, but she's still like then also empathetic and effective with people.
If you cast also on that beat. If you cast Robert Downey Jr., let's say, as Sherlock Holmes, that's a 2.5 hour movie. If you cast Marge Gunderson, 93 minutes. She
gorgeous.
Goes in and gets it done.
You okay there, Margie? Yeah, I just thought I was going to puke.
To recap our comedic performances, it is Vince Vaughn from Swingers, Steve Zahn from That Thing You Do, Nathan Lon from The Birdcage, Hank Azan from The Birdcage, Cuba Gooding John from Jerry Maguire, and Frances McDormand from Fargo. The envelope, please.
Cuba Gooding John, is that the one from Philly?
Yep.
It is Nathan Lane from The Birdcage.
We know what
Taking
we like.
it from Hank Azaria. Well done.
Take everything from him. You know what? You should be up who, Nathan Lane.
Hank Azaria 0 for 2 tonight.
Let's dive right into our fifth battle. This is our second seed, Trainspotting, versus our 18th seed, Ghost in the Shell. Trainspotting covers 1996 Edinburgh, where the skags like to mix heroin, knife fights, and toilet dives into a kinetic, culture-shaking come-of-age nightmare. And the other film jacks us right into a techno-futurist fever dream, asking what it means to be human, while casually inventing the entire aesthetic of the next 20 years of sci-fi. So, taste buds, which film better captures the fear and thrill of losing yourself? Trainspotting with drugs, fucking your friends over, nihilism, or Ghost in the Shell with wires, AI, and identity crises?
It feels like Ghost in the Shell, she chooses to be something new and like to evolve and move on. That seems to be her number one thing, is that like she feels like true evolution is not possible inside the bounds of like her current being until she meets the puppet master. Very much Trainspotting feels like we are not going to advance into adulthood, and we are going to like take as much heroin as necessary to like stave off adulthood.
Yeah, so one movie is no matter how hard you fight it, evolution is happening, and the other one is no matter how hard you fight it, evolution is not. We are stopped here, dead in our tracks, overdosed and immature forever.
Yeah, the Trainspotting crew are the human equivalent to the crabs trying to escape. The other crabs just pull them down. Anytime any one of them looks like they might do good in life, the other one's just like, fuck you, no, what? You're one of us.
I mean, Tommy, who was the first to die, he breaks up with his girlfriend, and they're like, heroin?
Yeah.
And that's after they have like set off the motions that cause him to break up.
It was their fault.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like they are more comfortable bringing each other back into the muck and the mire than they are like to see any one of them succeed or, get out of it in any way. And what's so odd about that is the movie that makes the movie sound like it must be a total drag, right? But it's actually not. It's very humorous in parts, and the music and sort of like that marriage of music and like the scenes are, I don't know, very driving. And so it's like there are obviously very dark, terrible moments in it, but it's amazing the ability of a movie to engage on such like dark topics and still have such moments of levity and brightness.
But I don't want to take anything from Danny Boyle. I'll just say that he may have seen a couple of early Scorsese's, and that whole like we can go as dark as we want if we keep the pace of the camera up, the editing up, and the music loud.
Yeah.
And so it's just such a ride the entire time that you don't really feel as disgusting as you should until the next day. You're
Also,
hungover from the movie.
shout out to Trainspotting, the only movie that has ever depicted accurately what it's like to try to hold a conversation in a club. I'm so tired of TV and movies where two people are just talking normally and they're supposed to be in a club. In Trainspotting, they're screaming at the top of their lungs and they're still like, "What? What are you saying?"
And it's
Mike,
so
this
fun.
was a show that you missed too. How did this hit for you?
Oh, this is one of those ones that I was worried about because I remember loving it, but because it's like gritty and dark and the kind of people who like it, I was like, is this going to go the way of Fight Club? No. Distinctly no. At no point does Danny Boyle fall so in love with his characters that he forgets they're awful pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Which is clear, like, the thread I'm realizing throughout these finale episodes is all I want is movies about pieces of shit. Where the creators acknowledge how piece of shitty they are.
Because doesn't it feel like when you watch a movie where the people are not that way, doesn't it feel like, I don't know, an incomplete picture?
Yes. False as hell.
And I mean, like, that's some of the stuff we talked about with Jerry Maguire of, like, he is a terrible person, and yet we're so hopeful for him because that's what the movie wants to leave us with.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm so glad we got to talk about Ghost in the Shell.
Let's talk about Gits, because this is a movie that Greg definitely campaigned for in the opening bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Mike and I were probably a little hesitant. I would say, I don't know. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was nothing like I expected, although I have no memory of what I expected. What a fucking crazy singular movie to me, as far as my history goes with movies.
Yeah, I very fair. And like, because this is not fair to do, but the reputations are so similar for Ghost in the Shell and Akira, I definitely went in arms pre-crossed and very quickly was like, wait, this one actually slaps.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on that note, though, it sort of made me, because I was with Mike in as far as like, I didn't gel with Akira as much as everybody else did, except for Mike. Maybe if I went back and watched Akira again, what if it is experience in a genre or a type of film?
Fair.
Yeah, I think even knowing what happens in Akira and having like getting to see it again is helpful, yeah, because it is so singular. And yeah, this is the one I was nervous about because I thought maybe you guys would hate it, and then you were both like, you said wonderful things about it. I really enjoyed it too. It never felt like it had a sniff of winning. Oh
no.
Yeah, and I do think there are first round matches it could have taken, certainly, but I think that probably would have been like one and done. And now I think, it's just to go up against Trainspotting is a very tough draw. And I don't know, I'm so glad we got to do it and everything. Not everything that like we talk about has to have a chance at winning. Sometimes it's just good to give us like sort of the background for what else is going on in that year.
And
that's totally true.
Ryan, go ahead.
That's totally true, Greg. But there are like 8 movies of this Sweet 16. That's like Independence Day last week got to fight That Thing You Do. I could have taken either of those movies.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what it manages to achieve is a lot of very interesting questions and a lot of very striking scenes. I think that the sum of its parts is incredible, and I think that it struggles to put them all together into one movie-going experience that works from beginning to end. But I don't know, in a way we've almost damned it with faint praise, but I really it's a very good movie. It's a very fun experience. And this is just such a tough draw for it, I think.
Well, with that, Greg, I'm going to need you to vote.
Yeah, it's hard. The Ghost in the Shell was mine, and I jockeyed for it fairly regularly, but Trainspotting is just both for like the time when it came out and now. It was one of those movies that jumped in my esteem when I saw it to talk about it for the show, and it's depressing and dark, but at the same time it's exciting and interesting. So I'm going to go with Trainspotting.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I have so much less experience with Ghost in the Shell, like thinking about, if that's Greg's thing, but Trainspotting is just so up my alley of just like, 90s cool drugs and shit, camera movements and music. So it's hard to separate and not be biased about those two things. But
yeah,
ultimately, as much as I enjoyed the experience of watching Ghost in the Shell and talking about it with you guys, I do feel like it's so many. There's so much stuff to talk about. There's so many themes, so many messages, so many points of discussion. But Trainspotting is the more complete movie to me,
and owns the year a little harder.
Yeah.
Even though, because it's in Scotland, who knows where it takes place? They're all super into Iggy Pop. That could be anywhere between the early 80s and the 90s. I will say this. I agree with both of your votes. Trainspotting is moving on. But Ghost in the Shell is the universe I will be diving back into more quickly before I watch T2 Judgment Spotting. I will.
I do have to say,
likely.
it is a rewarding universe. It's super fun and there's a lot of interesting things. And I feel like Ghost in the Shell is a movie that I can put on anytime because you end up seeing things in it that you've never seen before. Just in the interstitial music interludes or whatever, or just also the plot's can be a little difficult to follow at some parts. Exactly the intricacies of it, and so it's rewarding to go and try to track all that stuff down.
Yeah, last week's episode, we talked about how Mission Impossible may have invented that whole 10 minutes of exposition. Ghost in the Shell carries that out basically through the whole movie.
Yeah, for sure.
A whole movie of exposition, but it's great, guys. You should check it out. Let's jump right into another award, Best On-Screen Duo. Now, what do we mean when we say that, Greg?
Imagine a screen. Okay. A lot of times you're getting just one person on that, but sometimes you'll get two, and those duos are not all created equal. There are some like groups, or there's some duos that together they just have like this chemistry, and they really work a lot better. And yeah, they just bring that magic as a duo.
So these are not the villains.
These are not the villains,
okay.
But they're also not the shitheads. But sometimes it can be one of each.
Ryan, tell the world about Larry and Althea Flint.
I mean, we don't have a most romantic couple award, which clearly they would take down. But these two together, fire and gasoline. I guess it is a love story, but really it is these two people just propelling each other through both of their lives. I think that in order to make this work, you have to cast basically people who aren't actors at all. And we know that Courtney Love, this was her first starring role, but Woody Harrelson is just barely he's just a guy who comes on the set and does whatever, and you hope it's good. It always is. But I love these two together. They, in a biopic, in a Milos Forman biopic, you sort of, and that's fast forwarding basically through history, right? We get 40 years in this one movie.
Right. It's
the scenes of them together that keep it spontaneous. You don't know what's going to happen in this specific scene, even though you can read the Wikipedia to find out what happens throughout the course of history.
Greg, tell the world about Armand and Albert.
Armand and Albert I liken them on the show to Punch and Judy, the characters Punch and Judy from the Punch and Judy shows, because there's a real physicality to their relationship in some ways. They squabble and kind of fight, but the reason I think they get away with it is it's undergirded with so much love. They're a gay couple from the 90s, and they're at first viewing they are just two men who are married. But they are basically a married couple out of the 50s, and that becomes very apparent over the course of the movie. But Robin Williams and Nathan Lane have a tremendous amount of acting chemistry with each other. And you really believe that these are two people that have been in a relationship for 30 years. And that was so important to what made this movie work. We had this weird idea in the 90s of what gay people were like. And what this movie is reminding us is that what gay people are like is people, and because that's what they are. And so their relationships, when they last for as long as traditional relationships, they have that same sort of architecture and that same sort of where at one moment they seem at each other's throats and they're having a screaming fight, and then in the next consoling each other and loving each other. And to see that sort of those highs and lows and the warp and the weave, it's impossible not to be okay, obviously gay couples are just like any other couples, and that was an important sort of like discovery at the time. And this duo is what gives us that discovery.
You get the lingo, you get the inside jokes, you get all of that stuff. And I want to point out specifically the scene on the bus stop, where like you absolutely forget that is Nathan Lane and Robin Williams. You know, that's just a couple that has been together for like 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
A couple that is not fated to be together for 25 years that I want to talk about is Carl and Gair. How do you say that guy's name? Gair. Peter. Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare are from Fargo. They are at first you're like, oh, these are like the cool cats, the tough guys in the world of Fargo because they're dealing with bumpkins. No, they are so ineffective as their faux kidnappers because they both have different kinds of rage issues while looking down upon their partner's foibles. And they are both hoisted by their individual petards in the end in such a fun way to watch. The classic comedic duo. One isn't skinny and one isn't fat, but the one very loud, one very quiet is just tale as old as time and could watch it forever. I would love to see a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead style movie just about these guys.
In every duo, there's the one that is fed into the wood chipper and the one that feeds into the wood chipper.
Which is why there's three of us. We keep each other out of the wood chipper.
I think that like that's maybe part of the issue of the Midwestern stuff of Fargo is that like we thought that Coen Brothers were making fun of these people, but it's actually just so much more, deconstructionist than that. In that it's not that Midwesterners or people from Fargo are dumb. It's just that all these people across the nation are dumb, and here's a more real version of what you might get in a slicker movie.
Right.
And that like we would believe that if someone had a certain type of voice, then they couldn't also be like a criminal.
Right.
And like how like shallow that thinking was.
Ryan, tell the world about Mike, and I don't mean me, and Trent from Swingers.
Oh, these two knuckleheads, what foils they are. Trent is loud and abrasive and funny, and Mike sucks.
Ouch.
It's not about you.
I don't love that.
Yeah. But, he's the kind of guy that you need when you're sad, when you're a little bit in your corner. You just want to sit alone in your apartment. You want your apartment to be as dirty and dark as possible. That's what makes it the saddest. Then you have Trent to come in, bring sun rays of embarrassment to your
Trent will bring a couple girls over, and then Mike will corner both of them to talk about how much he misses his ex-girlfriend.
I mean, Trent embarrasses Mike. Did Mike embarrass Trent more?
Oh, hell yeah.
He walked in, interrupted coitus so he could use the phone to check his voicemail in the middle of
a voicemail machine that he knew would not have any voicemails on it.
And by the end of the movie, we realize that Trent isn't as successful as he says that he is. So, like, interrupting that is even worse, we realize, by the end of the movie.
Greg, let's go back to Fargo and talk about Marge and Norm.
Oh, yeah. As a joke, I refer to Norm as a B- husband. But we are not taught to see men like Norm as good men, as a functional part of a relationship. But he and Marge, what is nice about their love is that it is nice. We don't see it as exceptionally passionate. We see it in like the lived in moments of dozing off, eating snacks, watching TV together, having some Arby's, maybe getting some Arby's on each other, painting for our 3-cent stamp. We know now, of course, that Norm's stamp would have been used for a couple of years, but then the forever stamp was invented, which means that Norm was forgotten the way he's supposed to be, honestly.
I love how the end credits of Fargo, it said the only post-credit thing was Norm's stamp was used for 2 months and then never thought of again.
And John Carroll Lynch, one of the most underrated actors in acting history. He just such a nice softness in this movie where he could be a real creepball other times.
It takes a kind of like laid back, subdued not hyper masculine man to have in our modern society to have a dynamic, intelligent, powerful, accomplished woman. And so it's like he has to kind of be a little muted to give her chance to shine the way she's able to. But when you see them together, the sweetness, and it's like, in a way, he is solving the crimes with her by just like getting up to help her have breakfast, by
fix the eggs.
Yeah, by supporting her. It's like without those things, she wouldn't be able to do what she does, and it takes a man like Norm to like supply that for her.
Yeah,
but then also on the seriously, and I would like you to tell my wife that on the flip side of what Greg was saying, he feels totally comfortable in his own skin because he doesn't have to deal with these alpha pricks, and then it's like Marge goes out there to make sure that continues to be the case. She goes out to like fight against whatever alpha toxic bullshit there is in Fargo or Brainerd or whatever.
Our last duo nominated from the film Jerry Maguire. It's Jerry Maguire and Rod Tidwell, who taught us maybe it wasn't the romance that brought people back to this movie, but the bromance. These two are electric. In love. The chemistry that they have is beautiful. And you know that because they say real mean shit to each other, but then they come back. And that's the sign of a true friendship.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to be real with each other. And then they just say the most devastating things they can think of.
Oh, there's a part where Jerry, his eyes light up when he's like, "Oh, really, Rod? We can be real with each other? Are we friends?" Just so he can fucking try to devastate him.
But like
friendship.
You leave this movie, and like our guest CG, she was like, I don't believe that they are meant for each other, and I don't believe they're going to be happy together about the couple. But Dorothy, I don't think you leave that feeling like Rod Tidwell and Jerry Maguire aren't going to be okay. Those guys are like going to be together forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, your nominees again are Mike and Trent from Swingers, Jerry and Rod from Jerry Maguire, Marge and Norm from Fargo, Larry and Althea from The People vs. Larry Flint, Carl and Gaillard from Fargo, and Armand and Albert from The Birdcage.
I'm kind of pulling for Jerry and Rod because they got to win something tonight, right?
Got to win something, somehow.
Your winner for best on-screen duo is Armand and Albert from The Birdcage.
Yeah,
it's like 3 or 4 awards for The Birdcage at this point.
Nice.
All right, let's take the quick breaks, and we come back. Make more movies fight. Battle 6, it is our 39th seed Swingers versus our 42nd seed Breaking the Waves. One film. It's a sun-drenched time capsule of 90s cool, where martinis flow, and even the losers are actors who occasionally work, and Jon Favreau can't stop leaving voicemails that make your soul curl up and die. The other film is a raw, gut-wrenching odyssey of faith, sex, and suffering shot like God himself held the camcorder. So, taste buds, which film hit harder? The one where heartbreak means bombing at a bar, or the one where heartbreak means divine tragedy in the Lars von Trier emotional meat grinder?
I don't think I've seen many movies that are more difficult to watch than Breaking
Swingers.
The Waves. It's beautiful and in some ways uplifting, but a very difficult watch. And I got that impression, and then I remember watching the first 45 minutes of it and being like, this doesn't seem that bad. And the movie just gets harder and harder and harder to take. I would much rather watch Trent bomb a million times over than watch this movie.
Plus, watching Trent bomb just reminds you of stupid friends from our 20s, where watching Breaking the Waves reminds us of horrific friends from our 20s.
Or like the bleak things that can happen to our future. Like, Breaking the Waves invites us to be to think that something could happen to us that could fundamentally change who we are and how we see the world and our alignment to life itself. And that's not something that you like to think about that much. Instead, it's better to think about guys out there trying to get with some beautiful babies.
Ryan, what is a harder scene to watch? The bus scene in Breaking the Waves, or the Hollywood party where Mikey just keeps hitting on that girl but talking about his ex.
Oh man, the bus scene. I have so many feelings about the X scene is relatable. That's a thing that I've done a million times, and I am sorry to all my exes who I bring up every single time that happens. The bus scene is also relatable because that's why I'm not allowed to sit next to people on a bus. So it's a tie for me, Mike.
That's why I threw to you on that one. Let's just rip this Band-Aid off. Greg, what's it going to be?
Yeah, definitely breaking the waves. You wouldn't think that a movie that I'm like, oh man, just gets harder and harder to watch. But you cannot deny that it is art. And Swingers left me a little cold watching it as an adult. They all just seemed like the word babies is thrown around so much. And I guess as an adult, I was like, wow, they really are just little itty bitty babies.
They're the babies. Ryan?
I think a hard draw. Like maybe Swingers is so 96 that it's possible that if it came up against other movies, it would move on just because of its 96-edness. It's low budget. It's friends hanging out. It's whole like we're going to bring swing dancing back, which is something that we talked about so much in that episode. Again, almost like the opposite, but the equal to Independence Day in how can we do the season without that movie?
Right.
But Breaking the Waves it's just one of those movies that like I don't care what year it came out. I think that it is so important and so fucked up and like it challenges you in every way that it has to be that. And Swingers is just like that's not even in Swingers' purview, but it doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah. Like I said, not a hard pit draw, but a crazy matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these things count as movies.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. Movies can be everything. Let's dive over to one of our panelists' favorite award. It's Best Car.
Hell yeah.
Greg, kick us off talking about Chip's 1992 GMC Vendura.
Now,
the Cable Guy.
A lot of people think that when it comes to liking cars, that the only thing to like are like sports cars
vroom, vroom.
And yeah, race cars and everything like that. But I love a working vehicle. And this type of van is just like a very cool, classic, great like platform for all sorts of different jobs. Perfect for a cable guy. But I think it's also a good looking vehicle. The big box vans are cool looking.
I love a guy. Like sometimes people will come over to work on an appliance at my house because I can't fix that. And I'll be like, they'll be like, you need this part. I'll be like, oh, where do I get that? And he's like, I have it in my van. Like, oh, that's an awesome van then.
That's what
Chip
for.
has.
Ryan.
Yes.
Let's talk about, I think these are one of those flashy cars Greg mentioned. It's Armand's 1957 Ford Thunderbird from the Birdcage.
Dude, I think this is more valuable than the club itself. I think that this is what Albie is like going after. And just so classic Armand, right? He's just, he has to be driving around in Miami in this car, as big and bold and gold as he is.
Yeah, I love it as a South Beach Miami car. You know, like it's perfect.
I played
for
enough Grand Theft Auto.
Slowly.
Right.
I want to talk about 1964 Chevrolet C10. And you know I know a lot about this because I pronounced it the correct way. A Chevrolet.
Chevrolet. This
is the Stu-mobile and that thing you do. It's a weird, square, boxy, dope fucking old pickup truck, and I love this car.
Yeah, dude. It's a good-looking truck.
Now, I don't know if this means it wins, but if the three of us were to put our money in and go buy a car, it would be this one.
Yeah.
Complete with Stu.
Oh, you got to get a Stu.
People love the look of classic cars, but the truth is classic trucks are also very beautiful, and this is a great example of that. It looks like a truck, you know, like it's you're like, oh, that can do the job.
A kid drew a truck.
Yeah.
It's probably this truck that they're trying to draw. Greg, tell us about Catherine's 1994 BMW Cabrio in the Birdcage.
Okay, so this is like a 3 Series convertible, and again, she's like in the Florida area, so she needs a nice convertible. The 80s era 3 Series was like a nice small vehicle. They've gotten kind of like oversized the way most modern cars have. And you gotta love BMW, especially. You gotta love the convertible. If you've got the weather for it, then you gotta love it.
There's a part in like towards the climax of the Birdcage where she's stuck in traffic, right? This will lead to antics.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in her convertible with her bandana on, and she's like frustrated a little bit, but she's loving life.
Mm-hmm.
She's in that car, tops down, she's crushing.
Yeah, nobody's upset about spending more time in that car. Ryan, is anybody upset about spending more time in Trent's 1964 Mercury Comet Caliente from Swingers?
I might throw to Greg here because to me, this is like Armand's car, old and big.
Yeah. It's just an old, big, boxy car. It's not. It's nothing like super special or whatever. But it does very much have that like this is your first car vibe to it. You know where.
But what about the whole thing about like I'm a swinger, so therefore I have to buy a car that goes along with that? Is that weird?
Oh yeah, it's like part of his aesthetic or whatever.
Yeah. I just buy a car that like my neighbor's getting rid of.
Yeah, but it's got that nice big vehicle look. You know it's going to be comfy to cruise around in that thing.
And it's perfect for, the camera's in front of the car and we see those Vegas lights hit the windshield. It's the perfect car for that.
The perfect car. I'm going to switch it up completely to talk about one of my favorite vehicles in the history of Movie of the Year. It is the Festival of Fools opening car. In the Hunchback, it's like half cart, half stage wooden. Like people could be spilling off of it or hopping on it, and that's what public transportation is in a dire straits, folk. And I think the Roma folks driving this car are really doing a service to Paris by driving this around. It looks great. It's fun as hell.
Is this parade magical? Where do they keep all these cars and floats?
No, it's magical.
Yeah,
anytime
there's like music that you can't trust what you're seeing. That's part of the song.
And in real life, too.
Yeah.
Your nominees again are Chip's 92 GMC Vendura from the Cable Guy, Armand's 57 Ford Thunderbird from the Birdcage, 64 Chevrolet C10 from That Thing You Do, Catherine's 94 BMW Cabrio from the Birdcage, the Festival of Fools car from Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Trent's 64 Mercury Comet Caliente from Swingers. Ryan.
Guys, it's Armand's 1957 Ford Thunderbird from the Birdcage. Nice. Birdcage is absolutely rolling tonight.
Yeah. What an award winner. Let's jump right to another battle. Battle 7. Your third seed, Scream. Scream was this year. What a long year is 1996. Versus your 19th seed, Mars Attacks. Look. One movie sliced through the 90s horror slump with a knife, a phone call, and a scream queen and a baby doll tea, single-handedly resurrecting the genre by mocking it. The other gathered half of Hollywood to get melted by Martians with bug eyes and bad attitudes, turning Cold War kitsch into campy chaos. Which film did a better job that showed the director's love of the aged genre?
Well, come on. I love this matchup, though, because they do... I mean, Scream is obviously the answer to your question, Mike, but, like... I love that these two got pitted up against each other to say, like, I love this genre. It should be skewered. Who can do both of those things the best at the same time? And it's Scream all day, every day.
Yeah, I feel like the viewing public was more in contact with what Scream was a parody of.
Mm-hmm. Instead of like trading cards from the 50s.
Yeah. Like, it's just such a weird choice that it's like, who is on this ride with you? And so then it was often hard to like judge the parody, really.
Well, it's not just parodying the cards. I think it's using it's like it is a kind of, at least Scream, its genre was like shambling on, but I don't think there'd been.
Oh yeah. It's not just that it was from a set of cards. That's just a weird like footnote.
It's them and it came from outer space and
no, I mean, like if you watch the opening credits and those spaceships flying around, there are 1 million movies that have that opening credits.
Yeah,
so right, it's from gone 50 beyond years before.
Right, exactly. It's gone beyond the cards and now it's like an entire 2 decades of a specific genre, but still we were really missing classic teenage slasher films that had been sort of dead for 15 years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody was missing what Mars Attacks had to bring, which means you just have to do a different job. Like, no one knows what you're joking about. So do something just tilted a little bit different. And that's just not what happened.
And Scream managed to like comment on all these movies, but in a way that felt fresh and was also commentary on the mid 90s. Mars Attacks felt like it had nothing really much to say about modern times, except like, aren't we kind of all like more vapid than we used to be? Like, didn't things used to be maybe a little bit better? We're so ridiculous now.
Right. Or isn't this wild?
Yeah.
And a lot of time, no, it wasn't.
And it didn't help that in the same year, and it can't go up against it because I'm reading the tea leaves for this one, and ID4 got kicked out last episode. And we talked a lot of shit on ID4, but it did everything Mars Attacks wanted to do, but much better.
Yeah, tonally much better too. Yeah, like I would say very specifically the tone was much better in Independence Day. It was also making fun of all those same things, but in a way that like delivered on the promise of a movie. See, that's what Scream does so much better than Mars Attacks. Like, Scream has all these things it wants to say about horror movies, but at the end of the day, it is serving you up a movie as a way to
great
do that.
Horror movie.
Yeah, and it felt like Mars Attacks was supposed to be like, you were supposed to enjoy it on so many levels, but the level you were probably not going to enjoy it on was just sitting there and watching it. And that's your first job.
Almost like if one episode of SNL had a theme for the entire show instead of a movie start to finish.
SNL should try to do that.
Also, criminal underuse of Christina Applegate,
which we hate here.
Yeah, we will not abide here.
And that's why criminal underuse of Christina Ricci, not even in the movie.
What? That doesn't seem right for the era it came out in.
I know.
Scream moves on, not even asking. Let's talk about how much we hate the cops, don't we? Here,
I think that is the position of the show. Yeah, that we hate. It's not a very nuanced take, and I believe we as individual members might have more nuanced takes, but that is the opinion of the show.
Yeah, Greg is always saying the only good pig is a dead pig.
And to piggyback on that, I'm going to take a deep breath and not do bits for a whole award. Let's just get serious right now.
This is the best, and what we mean by that is, of course, most impactful, fuck the police moment. And to talk about the serious nature of this award, I'm going to talk about how the cops are pursuing Quasimodo's mother in the introduction scene of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think this is the 4th of 5 introduction scenes of Hunchback of Notre Dame. And this is old school Disney because it is horrific to watch.
Yep.
Emotionally devastating. And you just watch them rip an infant out of a mother's arms and kill her.
And like ride her down, right? Like trample over her with a horse. An evil horse.
Do you know what her crime is? Being in town.
There's a couple points in this scene where she gets away and they could be like, let's go back to the station. But they're like, no, not today, gentlemen. Let's find this mother who has this baby.
Now, Greg.
Yes.
Can you tell the listeners about a fuck the police moment in HAINE when the police beat up but tied up Hubert and Saeed?
Wow. So uncomfortable. A very uncomfortable scene. One of these scenes where, and this is a weakness of mine, where I couldn't stop thinking about the actors portraying the scene and being like, is everyone okay? Like, is this, they're actively torturing, but mostly by like annoying and manhandling these two guys and just humiliating them. And on top of that, it's also like a show for what appears to be an actor that's like doing the thing where the actor's in bed with the cops for a little bit to learn for a role. And the lead detective that's like really torturing these two guys primarily just keeps like talking to this guy about how you do it. And he just keeps saying, and you want to go farther, but you know you can't. And you want to do more, but you know you can't, even though you want to so bad. And he's like pouring water in their faces and choking them and hitting them. And it's just, you keep thinking this is only going to go on for so long. And it's like a 4-minute scene and you feel every second of it.
And if you're watching this movie in 96 or 2025, you know that there are no repercussions. Like, you know that like There will be no day where Hubert and Saeed have their day in court and get these cops busted. Like, that's just, they're going to walk out of there. They're going to be happy to walk out of there alive, and nothing will happen to those cops.
And not to put too fine a point on it, but this is also Paris. So, like, come on, Parisian cops through the airs.
The only city with bad cops.
Yeah.
And to stick that point really home, Ryan, talk about the police burning down the whole town in the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hunchback coming back, yes. So as I don't want to compare HAINE and Hunchback, although we're going to have to. If I remember correctly, the scene, Frollo's like burn that village down, and they're like, but there's people in there, and he's like, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they just light a roof full of wood, very burnable wood, and the whole thing burns down.
Yeah, they lock the door.
It's funny. Yeah.
But and they know who they're looking for isn't in there, but you fuck it.
Come and see flashbacks. Like in a Disney movie, something as horrific as something that happens in Come and See takes place.
What I've realized as time has passed, all the dumb as hell shit, the gargoyles, mostly, and so many other things have fallen away when I think about Hunchback. And I'm like, wait, is that a great movie? But then I remember all the dumb shit. I'm like, no, that is a very flawed movie. The final showdown of our guys versus the cops in LaHaine is so the cop just needed to put his ego away just a dash. I know that's hard for the boys in blue, but just chill a little and everything would be fucking fine. But no, guns are cool, so why not whip one out whenever you want?
Accidentally
shoot a guy who's not really resisting.
Yeah.
Such a bummer. And our last one, Ryan. Oh, look at that. It's
Yes.
from LaHaine. Talk about the footage of the riots in the opening scene.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, this is, in case you wanted the movie to hit home a little bit harder, these were, actual shots of stuff that happened at the time the movie's supposed to take place in Paris, where a bunch of people were beaten beyond belief for doing almost nothing wrong. People protested, cops destroyed them, and that's what we start off with, is not filmed footage by the director or even the second unit director, but actual news footage of cops destroying human beings.
Why can't the Parisian police just take a page out of the States? Like, what's wrong with you, Paris? Your nominees
Paris, get your shit together.
Are The Pursuit of Quasimodo's Mother from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Police Burning Down the Entire Town from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Police Beating Up and Tied Up Hubert and Saeed in LaHaine, The Final Showdown versus the Cops in LaHaine, and the footage of the riots in the opening scene of LaHaine. Paris.
Not since musical moments from the past have we only got one award with 2 movies with all the nominees. The winner is the torture scene from LaHaine.
Yeah, it is rough stuff. That, to talk about Come and See vibes of like, anytime I'm like, I want to watch LaHaine, that movie ruled. And then you think about that, I'm like, do I want to sit through that though?
Yeah.
Frollo would love that scene.
Oh, he would, so rock hard. Let's talk about our last battle of this round. It is the 27th seed, the Birdcage, versus our 22nd seed, the just aforementioned Hunchback of Notre Dame. One of these movies gave us a pastel explosion of drag, dinner parties, and pure queer joy, wrapped in a farce that somehow still makes you tear up. The other tried to squeeze a Victor Hugo tragedy full of lust, genocide, and Catholic guilt into a family-friendly musical. So which film better pulled off the impossible? Making conservative parents laugh at gay love, or getting kids to sing along to a song about hellfire and horniness?
Both are absolute, like, jaw-dropping 96 movies. Like, congratulations to both.
I do, like, I have to say, I gained a lot of respect for Hunchback of Notre Dame this season. I think that it set out with huge goals that like just were not achievable, and I just like, they must have just at some point somebody went, fuck it, let's just do it and be legends, and they like all went out of they all screamed out of the room, and they got back to work. But again, this is another, like, the sum of its parts, I'm not sure, but the parts themselves, there are the computer animation in this is jaw-dropping. The use of color is amazing. The fact that it is a kids movie that deals with like horniness, I think would have been important to a young version of me, you know? But like, I find as I extol its virtues, though, that eventually I get to the point where I'm like, but it doesn't work. Just, the gargoyles are bad. The way the movie interacts, like the way the story necessarily interacts with like Parisians and the Roma community, and it does not use the word Roma. It's just very, very uncomfortable. Like, how'd you ever think that that was going to work? It obviously wasn't. But it's audacious and bold, and there's a lot to celebrate about it, I think.
But ultimately, like what Greg's saying, it leaves it as a movie for nobody.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, like no one is cool with this movie because either you want more gargoyles or you want darker, more pervy. And that's just not it. Like, I wish that like this was the point where Disney split and it would like, instead of gargoyles, it made some movie called like The Gopher Golfs Again. And then we got the Hunchback movie that they were trying to make this entire time.
Hey, Ryan, you said again? So this isn't even the first time this gopher has golfed?
No, there's a movie in 1956, obviously, Greg, called The Gopher Golfs for the first time ever. He's never golfed before. And that's one of my favorite movies. I think you know that about me.
There's just a lot of world building there, and I just wanted to celebrate it.
Or that one from the 50s was a light romp. The remake, when he golfs again,
so
is,
dark. So
dark
perverted.
and twisted fantasy.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. When we first brought this movie up last week, you brought up another movie, Pocahontas. Who is pitching these ideas for the movies? Like, take 10 seconds to think about the source material. And that's part of the problem with Hunchback is they had to make wholesale changes to the story, to characters. Once you're making these changes, don't you ask yourself, like, why? What are we preserving here, and why? Is it just because this is a story that's free for us to use?
And
I think that the public domain is a big deal.
Yeah,
like they hadn't even hit through like the main fairy tales before they jumped to this. Like, guys,
but I thought the whole thing was like pick a 4-page public domain fairy tale,
right,
and then build it out with your Disney bullshit. Not take a very complicated American hero like Pocahontas or a 1,400-page novel that no kid has ever read and turn those into summertime hits. That doesn't make sense.
And about a man's like tortured lust for a much younger woman. Like, how are you going to do this? What are you talking about?
Somebody was writing about themselves for sure. All right. This one feels like it's a real nail biter. Who's moving on? Is it the Birdcage or the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Ryan?
It's the Birdcage moved up so much in my estimation. It's won 17 awards so far in our finale. So I'm going to go with the Birdcage.
Greg?
Yeah, except for Val, Birdcage is one of the best feelings I've had watching a movie for this show, just in terms of like how good it felt and how enjoyable it was. Hunchback certainly wasn't that, but there's something there. Like, I think I'll watch Hunchback of Notre Dame again in the future. I mean, the parts that work really do work. The computer animation is amazing, but this was the easiest matchup we've had. We had some real stinker movies.
That is all the time we have this week. Come back next week. The movies moving on in no particular order are The Birdcage, Breaking the Waves, That Thing You Do, HAINE, Mission Impossible, Fargo, Trainspotting, and Scream. And, of course, more awards. Until then, keep watching those movies.